Hello, welcome back to another week of the NRL Supercoach Talk Draft Waiver Wire podcast. Chris and Simon back again after we had last week off. Chris, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Personally, a little bit better than the Supercoach side's fortunes, but yeah, better to I guess do as I say, not what I do.
Hasn't been a good start to the year, mate, has it? That's for sure.
No. I know. When I was whinging post my loss this week, I went through all the things that have happened to combine to a tough start to the year. But mate, that's why we do this podcast. It's all about me getting better waiver picks so I can get back in it.
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. I guess that's something we don't talk about much on the waiver podcast, is it? It's that some leagues out there do the worst record to the top every week rather than a rolling waiver system.
Yeah, I mean, there's some merit to that system, I guess. Probably would work better in leagues where you have, let's say, like a few seasoned veterans or experts at the top, and then some sort of more inexperienced gentlemen at the bottom. I can see an argument for it, but I think in a league where you've got, like ours, where you've got 10 blokes who are all pretty experienced and know what they're doing, I think it's a lot better to have the rolling waivers.
Yeah, I do agree a lot with that as well. All right, mate. Yeah, it was a bit of a down week in terms of our league. We both copped losses this week, so a bit of a shame. So it's probably not the best week for us to be giving much advice.
Well, as I said, mate, I'm not going to bore the listeners and go through every single thing that has occurred to get my very spotty record to start the year. But all I know is it couldn't have gone much worse. So let's hope for a few meat pies for one Josh Megabust Hodgson.
Yeah, LJ Hodge hasn't gone so well, that one, has it? It's a bit of a shame.
No.
All right, just before we kick off the show, I just need to talk about last week. Unfortunately, there was no show last week just due to a few work things that got in the way. We do always try to get podcasts out unless absolutely necessary that we can't. And unfortunately, on this particular situation, it was just unavoidable last week. So we apologise for that, but we're back again at it this week. Okay, let's get stuck into the teams then, mate. So it's a pretty interesting week in terms of player movement on the waiver wire, just because of the injuries to Jake Frand, DCE. Also, you got Rapana, who's out with a rib injury for 2 to 3 weeks or so. So there's going to be opportunities there that have popped up on waivers. And the first game of the round is South at home to the Broncos. And I probably think the best place to start is at the Broncos with the news of Cody Nikorima probably off to the Warriors, it seems. You kind of mentioned Tom Dearden last week as a potential waiver claim, actually. He said he was a low-end claim or free agent stash. That's really paid dividends even only 1 week later.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been a bad guy to have stash leading into this week, because I definitely think he's a waiver claim now, just because I feel like that's his spot. The only thing I'd sort of bring up there is, I think really what that stands out is that might be a really good thing for one Tony Milford. This showed a bit of form against what admittedly was a second grade side of the Sharks by the time all their injuries happened. But point being, he's a bit of a confidence player, and it might go really well for him. But in terms of Tom Dearden, I still have him as a guy you could pick up because it's really his spot to lose, you would think.
Yeah, and I guess in terms of fantasy, he's halfback only, so I guess that might kind of lower his need for some teams to be going after a guy like that, just because they might not need that position. But a pretty good stash, if not pick up and play if you were mega desperate.
Well, I think, mate, if you were the DCE owner, I mean, I guess there'd be 16-team leagues where Nikorima was potentially a starter. But if DCE is, there's not many halfbacks on the waivers, taking a flyer on this guy might be your option.
Yeah, no, that's true. So he's probably the only guy in that whole game between Souths and the Broncos that's really worth mentioning in terms of waivers, I would say.
Which is fair. The only player I want to mention there is actually not even named, is Braden Burns. So how do you see all that? There's rumours of James Roberts switching mid-season. They will not go away. And in the NRL, generally speaking, when that much rumour just persists, it usually ends up happening. I'm not saying it definitely will. I don't have any inside information, none of that. But it keeps coming up. If Roberts moves there, how do you see South's backline taking shape? let's assume everyone's fit, including Burns. How do they line up?
I would say that it would be obviously Johnson at fullback with Roberts and Burns in the centres.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd have Gagai and Campbell Graham on the wings.
Okay.
I think Corey Allen would be the one to miss out.
Yep, that's how I see it too, mate. So I guess the reason I brought that up is for those who've been hanging on to Burns after his amazing early season form, still hang on there because I firmly agree with Simon. That's the way it'll play out.
Yeah. All right, next game of the round sees the Cowboys at home to the Gold Coast Titans. Pretty big news with I guess it's not huge news, but the fact that Tamari Martin's been ruled out indefinitely due to severe concussion, I think was the diagnosis there. Sees Kahu go back to fullback. For me personally, I don't really see much in this whole Cowboys side, especially their back line. It's just atrocious.
Yeah, just sort of still no sign of Cole Felt even in the extended reserves. He's really needed for that side for a bit of a spark with his athletic plays and even in-game kicking. He's been a big out for them this year, I reckon.
Yeah, really underrated out, I reckon.
Really yeah, I really think so. I think it's because he's a winger. We're fine. We got backs, but he really offers a dimension to them that they almost need. And I see Taumalolo's name there in the 20 jersey. I mean, there's a good chance that he'll be back this week, and obviously means you can plug him in there and play him if he eventually is named in 13. But it's really hard to get excited about any of these Cowboys other than Taumalolo. And I guess, do you think the time is now to potentially sell high on Josh Maguire?
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. He's performed so well without Taumalolo. You probably would have got more for him last week when there was still that kind of thought that Taumalolo may have been a little further away. But this week now, I think people are going to be pretty cotton on to the fact that Taumalolo's right back. He's probably not getting as much value, but he's still a sell.
Yeah, I still think the average might just carry it through, and not everyone listens to your expertise, sir.
Yeah, like he's not a must sell. That's for sure. He's not someone you'd be devastated if you didn't. But yeah, I guess you see how you go. See who you can shoot for. You might get lucky and get a nice deal. But yeah, I guess to summarise, there's not really anything there that we're that keen on.
No.
Over to the Titans. I guess the only major news for them is that Brimson's back, which is good to see, albeit on the bench. He's probably the only one that's kind of a stash-worthy player there. I guess what I wanted to ask you was just your boy Fotuaika. You quite like Fotuaika as a player?
Yeah, just Supercoach. He seems to be decent PPM generally.
Yeah. I do have a waiver claim for Jared Wallace, I must say. I think he'll probably
minutes.
Be the benefit.
Big minutes. Yeah, I agree with you, mate. He gets a bump. With Ryan James' injury, that's a big bump for his minutes, you'd feel, or at least it locks him into sort of look. Is the upside there 55 plus if it all goes his way?
Yeah, I think it's definitely there. 55-ish to 60 minutes is his ceiling in that side.
Yeah, which is for a guy that has got a very, he's obviously got a good motor. When you've only got like a Shannon Boyd as your, counterpart starting in the front row. Yeah, I got to stop talking about how I just don't understand Shannon Boyd. But anyway, he a low minute forward there. That really does lock him into those minutes. So I think he's either a very good waiver claim, or a really a very good sort of. Yeah, you're buying at his lowest almost. He's been really average to start the year as well.
Yeah, and obviously suspended. So yeah, he's definitely someone that may be slept on going into this week. Next game of the round sees the Sharks at home to the Melbourne Storm. Obviously the big news for the Sharkies is SJ gone. As you particularly, I'll give you a chance now to gloat about that.
I'll never celebrate an injury. I'm not that sort of guy. But all I say is suck shit, Dino. No, just look. That's just why I don't have him as a high draft pick for that reason. I've said my bit, and yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, it's everything you said has played out. I mean, I I was kind of in the opposite opinion. I didn't really see the risk there, but you've always flagged him as an injury risk player that you don't like drafting, and lo and behold, he's out 4 to 6 weeks. But anyway, in terms of waivers, what do you think of Cole Flanagan in this side now?
Interesting one, isn't it? Because with Sean Johnson as well, that's hammy. He's had those soft tissue ones tend to linger, and he is a guy that's had them. So you think it's more the maximum end of that period? Like they'd be crazy to rush him back, you would think. That has got to feel as though he is worthy of a waiver claim for mine. I'm okay with it.
Yep, so he's probably out. So you think you've got probably 5 to 6 weeks with him?
Something like that, with the chance maybe even not to override the great NRL physio, but like Johnson again, he can't come back early. He's not a guy you could risk with. That would be craziness to me, with his record of re-injuring himself. So I would think you're going to get the max there, and with that upside, I think I'm okay with it. I like it. Young, talented player. I mean, I guess you got to mention as well his halves partner, Chad Townsend, this year, mate. He has actually been good. What's going on?
He has been very good, the Chad. He's been
Yes.
really decent. He does take a knock, though, with Flanagan being his partner here, because Flanagan will definitely kick.
True.
Whereas with SJ there was always that chance that they might just ease SJ just with his nicks, and he's had the groin injury and quad that he's kind of been nursing through the last few rounds. Townsend's still he's probably someone we should have mentioned weeks ago as a waiver, because he's been that good.
Hand up and sort of apologies there. It's one of those ones that I guess for you and I played for long enough. We tend not to believe the one season, the big career season, till it's a bit later in the piece. So credit where credit's due. If you picked him up, he looks like he's going to be pretty solid year on. I doubt that one's changing.
Yeah, I agree. So. If both of those two halves are out there, you're still well worth a shot on waivers for both of those. Over to the Storm, the only guy I've mentioned here is Marion Sevi. Looks like he's kept that centre spot over Curtis Scott, who's on the extended bench. So, look, you own Sevi, is that right? You have Sevi in our league?
I've got Sevi, mate. I'm just looking at my side now. I've actually just sort of put him in there for the week in the CT dub. Against sort of a weakened Shark side as well. I think you could fire him up. Hard to recommend him as a waiver claim, just because I think Curtis Scott is obviously a long-term, I wouldn't call him a star, but a long-term starter for Melbourne. But, mate, you want a part of this Melbourne backline, you have to think.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you hit the nail on the head. It's hard to see Curtis Scott staying out of this team for an extended period of time. But while he's there, he's probably worth a sneaky play, because I think he based quite well last week.
He did, mate. He's quite a busy guy. Doesn't want to tackle either. So yeah, not. I feel like he's not a high ceiling guy, but I think he'll get you a decent floor.
Yeah, I agree. So he's probably. I guess that makes him a really low end waiver. Free agent pickup.
Yep.
Okay, so the first game on Saturday shapes to be a pretty good game. Raiders at home to the Penrith Panthers. As we said before, with the Raiders, obviously Rapana's out for a couple of weeks with that rib, which sees Bailey Simonson come back into the side. No, I haven't really got any interest in Bailey Simonson as a super coach option. What about you?
Don't think so, mate. Nothing to see there.
And I guess the only other thing for the Raiders that I kind of wanted to just retouch on was Ryan Sutton was mentioned last week. He only scored 40 points in 45 minutes, so not anyone that you're overly keen on. Also, Jack Whiten had a pretty huge game on the weekend. So what's your thoughts on Jack?
He's an interesting one for me, because I did see the style of play and running the football the way he did. It did make him look like he was going to be pretty Supercoach relevant if he's doing that. But in the same token, you feel like he almost has to get those tries to be relevant, because he's just never going to set anything up. He just doesn't have a passing game. So it looks like a matchup that could be ripe for him. I'm not going to lie to you. So if you want to take a flyer as a 1 week special, if you think you need that, I can see how you'd make an argument, but don't go burning a high-end claim.
No. I'm just not a huge Jack Whiten fan in terms of playing. Like he does some really good things, but then he'll just drop the ball the next set, and then he does some great stuff and some really bad stuff. He's just a really frustrating player to watch.
Agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. Again, though, I think for some reason you're 5/8 needy in this. I think there's a decent amount of upside potentially could be had against the Panthers.
Yeah, you're probably right. Okay, on to the Panthers then. Obviously, Caleb Aikens based pretty well last week, like we kind of said he would, as a kind of a meter eater type player, lots of base carries and that sort of thing. The big thing for me, the waiver claim that I would see here in Penrith is I kind of liked Wade Egan last week. I think he looked really good.
He looked really good. Like, if that, surely that has got to coincide with a slight uptick in minutes over the quite ineffective Sione Katoa, in my opinion. I think we saw the same thing, mate. I thought Wade Egan was carving him up the middle, and there's some talent there, isn't there?
Yeah, he's a really good player, and just the impact he had on that side, how he really straightened them up. He didn't have lots of runs, but just the way that he just did enough out of dummy half, and he did it quickly, and he was really effective. I can see him getting more minutes. He did get 67 of them on the weekend, but that was his season high, and there was no injuries to report for that. So I think the arrow's pointing up for Wade Egan.
Yep.
I love him as a speculative claim at your hooker.
I do. I do too. Yep.
Cleary's come out and said he kind of likes an 80-minute hooker at the start of the year. It never eventuated preseason, but this is the time where I think he's worth a stab as a bench stash, especially for the Jake Friend owner. I really like that as a claim. So.
Yep, I'm gonna get on board with that, mate. I think a low end claim. If you're the Jake Friend owner, I could see an argument, especially in leagues of 12 and 16 teams, where you probably have to make a pretty decent waiver stab at him.
And also, you've got Jazz Tavanga as well. I forgot to mention in the injuries, he did a calf as well. So if you're in a 12-team league where you've got Friend and Tavanga as starters, which they should be there'd be 10-team leagues where they're starters, and yeah, I think Wade Egan's a pretty sneaky pickup for those guys.
Just before you go on, mate, I just got to point out, I'm glad a fair bit's been made of that kick-out try on the weekend, but that is unbelievable. To get back up again with 3 players draping off you and power towards the line like that after already stepping past one and barging through another, that's not something you're going to see every day. I mean, if kick out, obviously that would have put him on the map, that try, but if you're the owner or there's leagues where they just don't believe Panthers are good enough this year, geez, there's going to be some upside games on the run home.
Oh, yeah, there's going to be some upside games. And also, he didn't score actually, no, I believe he was 96 or 94 post-game. Then he went down in updates. He got down dates to 76 or something like that. And then ended up going back up to a mid-80s score or 88 or something like that. So I think there is a chance there where there's still a little bit of buying opportunity there with him, because he probably, if you owned him and watched that game, that you probably expected 90 plus.
Yep.
And I think there's a slight opportunity. So it's probably not someone that I wouldn't be so opposed to going out and having a crack at trying to get him. Just on the off chance that someone was expecting more based on the game that he played, because he was phenomenal.
He didn't actually score much before that try. I think probably would be part of it, but he's one of those guys, once he starts to get involved, it just sort of rolls from there. So good, really good real life player. Yeah,
like he's also lost he hasn't been getting 80 minutes either. He's been getting taken off about kind of anywhere from the 30th minute onwards. That Liam Martin comes on, gives him a spell up until half time, and then he comes on probably 6 or 7 minutes into the second half, or maybe even a little bit later. That could be seen as a bit of a dip for his value, but I kind of like him getting a short spell because he's that real impact player. Yep. So if he comes on fresh, it can give him a new lease on life throughout the game as well. So sometimes less is more with players like that.
Yep.
On to the second Saturday game, which is Manly at home to the Bulldogs. Obviously, the DCE blow is absolutely brutal for anyone who owns DCE. Just really, really hard to recover from.
Yeah, rough because you nailed the draft pick as well. He's ended up being phenomenal value in round 2 for certainly was looking like a round 1 pick up until the injury.
Yeah, no, he's been so good. the way that no turbo, no DCE. This Manly side just looks atrocious on paper now. But there's really nothing there that interests me at all, even against the Bulldogs.
Just to mention to Corey Waddell, who we did touch on very briefly a couple of weeks ago, that guy is a talented footballer. He's not in the right situation to really come into the starting lineup. Short of, there was rumours that Curtis Sirinen might end up playing in the halves potentially, but either way, just a talented young player.
Yeah, no, he's a good player. It's obviously the issue there.
Also, just want to add for that Manly side that if you didn't have a better opportunity to sell high and Martin to power, it again presents itself this week. Don't be fooled by the upside game he had. The minutes are still not there, and that's with Fanua Blake being out the couple of weeks. I can't be sure. Tapau is just not a high-end player this year.
Yeah, it was like we said. Jake Trbojevic, Curtis Siren, and Joel Thompson, their whole back row plays 80 minutes. And obviously Coruscant and Fainu are a rotation on their own there. So you've got three guys on the bench that rotate between both front row spots. It is really concerning, that rotation for his minutes, isn't it?
It is. I'm sticking with it. I know that's a rare time you'll hear someone saying, sell high after a couple of good weeks, but I can't. I don't think he's a long-term option. But also just wanted to point out there is that I did hear rumours that Api Coruscant was out for a few weeks. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that he was out. I heard that he had an injury to his calf that was getting iced at the end of the game. I think it was reported as a really low end. I think Des Hasler quoted saying it was a minor complaint or something like that.
a minor complaint? That's awesome.
Yeah. You like that one?
I did. A minor complaint. You can bloody put that on the board. That's good from you.
Yeah. But yeah, so he's probably worth a pickup though, as a stash, I guess. It's fine.
Just as a guy, mate, if he gets 80 minutes again, like he was brilliant last year. For anyone who picked him up in drafts, possibly rode into a title. He was amazing, and he's a go. He's a fantasy. He's made for fantasy with his involvement and his runs and whatnot. So if you do find out between now and then that Coruscant is in fact going to be out, or you get some news about him, I'm all about Fainu as a waiver claim.
Yeah, absolutely, and also plays the buy round. But obviously, Coruscant's not going to be out for that long. But you never know. You never know. All right. What about the Bulldogs? Anyone from them that interests you this week?
I did look again at Ogden, who does get the start. He's got some interesting little attacking stats that sort of sneak him up to that 50 again, because he had that line break try to get to 68 last week, and then he scored another 50. So I guess in sort of your 12 and 16 team leagues, he's probably not the worst sort of very low end or free agent stash, just to, because that does play that first big buy round. Still, the minutes aren't quite there to sort of make him an every week starter in 10-team leagues. But I guess he's a bit of a watch this space / possibly free agent with a few more minutes.
Yeah, look, I see where you're going with that. I'm kind of more interested in any of the Bulldogs' backs in this game. I think you could fire most of them up in this matchup.
Even Meaney? I did see some people thinking Meaney might be a goer this week.
Yeah. I guess so. If you got to that point, he's probably not a bad play. He's not a huge Supercoach player, Nick Meaney, from what I've seen of him so far.
Too slight, mate. These slight fullbacks don't make for very good Supercoach players. The only ones we've seen ever, Barber had that historic season back in the day when he was scoring all those tries. But if you remember, even then he was averaging sub 60 with a ridiculously high try scoring season. You need the work rate fullback. Yeah,
he's just going to get injured if he has too many carries. So
it's just
he's not the worst start if you're needy, but yeah, it's a matchup play is all it is.
Yeah, and Mr. Ockenbaugh, now this is one of those guys that I will always miss out on when it comes to waiver pickups, because I'll assume he just had one big week. There is a chance that he is going to be an every week top 15 CTW run home, because he seems to get his hands on the ball and has a knack for scoring tries. Yeah. He's one, mate. Sorry, listeners, if we didn't jump on that straight away, because we've seen that guy disappear so often, but he's here to stay, right?
Yeah, he looks sneaky legit. Like, he had that one down game against the Storm, which you can excuse him for.
No, not against the Storm. The Storm was
Oh,
ring out
sorry,
his
the
big
Storm was
game.
a huge one, wasn't it? Who did they
Yeah.
play last week?
Uh,
The week
the
before that.
week before that, he had a big down week, and a lot of people sold him in Classic. But he's bounced back. He would have had over 100 if it weren't for a very dubious front row, fast forward, forward pass ruled against them, which probably wasn't. So yeah, he's that every week starter, and it's just good luck to you if you got him. Just ride it.
Yeah, it was against South the poor game, but anyway, yeah, I think he's a really good pickup. Should be owned for sure, and probably will be owned in most leagues, but does need to be touched on. All right, the last Saturday game is the Roosters at home to the West Tigers. Obviously, for the Roosters, we had Jake Friend out injured. He's out for quite a while, it seems. So Victor Radley is going to assume that hooking spot, which is really bad for his value.
Which is crazy, mate. I know why. What happened to Victor Radley, who looked like the biggest work rate guy off the bench we've seen? Is he just a guy that doesn't have as big a motor as we thought?
Oh, look, he does. It's just that he doesn't run as much. At hooker, he's just a tackler, and he's just kind of all he is. All he needs to do is just pass it off to Cronk and Keary and let them kind of run the show.
I guess that's sort of becoming a bit of almost a trend in the NRL. You either have teams that have the dominant hooker, who's almost like a pseudo number 7, or you have the two halves. That's kind of how the super coach seems to be settled at the moment. You very rarely have both anymore.
Yeah, it's it's kind of the thing. Like when he was playing lock, he'd get a lot of attacking stats from because he's got such a good passing game, especially a short passing game. He put a lot of line breaks, made a lot of line breaks, and also assisted a lot of line breaks just from those short passes where he'd either dummy and go himself or hit a forward that's pushing up with him. He's probably lost that a little bit at hooker.
Yeah. Still good. I mean, he'll do it. That's not. I heard some ridiculous comment on a website about him being the most overrated player they've seen, sort of molding the Supercoach value into their real life value. Like he does quite a good job for that Roosters side. It just hasn't translated to Supercoach.
Yeah, that's pretty harsh if you say that about him. But anyway,
I think he's a. You ask Robinson what he thinks of him. I think he's just pleased.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so no waivers for the Roosters.
No.
Other than potentially a free agent on Nicavalu in this matchup, but that's about it.
Okay. Yep. I actually, you know what? I don't mind that one at all. As you force CTW, bring him in as a 1 week special. Like it.
Okay, well, West Tigers. I don't think there's anything else here other than the fact that McQueen's kept the second row spot over Garner, who's on the bench.
Interesting. Garner's still under a concussion cloud, a HIA cloud, as far as I know, so that could be something to do with it.
Yeah.
Might be good just to give the poor bugger a week off with a couple of HIAs ready to start his NRL career, in my opinion, but maybe that is what will happen come game day. Interesting, Norfoluma, coming off that, Tigers backline having a good week, I guess he has to wait another week longer, but I guess my advice there is just hang on because surely he can't be far away. They'll likely get absolute belted this weekend.
Yeah, he might be this time next week. He'll probably be in the side, but it's hard because Fanua scored a hat trick last week.
Oh, jeez, unbelievable. I mean, how bad will he have to look in defense this week? Which I'm sticking by it that the defending that he presents is just they're going to get carved up. You would think that's where I'm going with that. So hang on to Nofo. Other than that, mate, I guess if you've got any of those, Robert Jennings had a big week. If you've got any of those type of guys, in deeper leagues, maybe try and sell them because you don't want to play them this week.
No, God, no way. You're benching pretty much all Tigers outside of Masters in the backs there.
Yeah.
Okay, next game of the round on Sunday sees the Warriors at home to the Newcastle Knights. For the Warriors, RTS is back, which is good news for him. Cody Nikorima not named this week. So I guess the big news for the Warriors is going to be what happens to this team when Nikorima comes across. What do you think happens here?
Well, I would have thought that they would use him more as the super sub style, like the 14. But I know Roach is there, so that would be a harsh dropping it to Vita.
Yeah, it would be. It would be pretty rough for the kid.
Especially considering he's had to do it without Blake Green. That's the bit that I think would bother me if he's I'm not the biggest Kearney fan, playing managers sides, but I feel like he might do that, and I just think that is like saying, "Hey, fella, you couldn't run an NRL side by yourself in a pretty average side. You almost beat the Storm under your leadership, but we'll drop you." I just, and for a guy like Nikorima, who I stand by, is much better as a super sub, utility man.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting what they do with Nikorima, because now they've got a lot of guys that are kind of really similar. You got Luke, Roach, Tavanga. That's kind of like that three-way hooking rotation they had already. Like we said, it's hard to see Tavita get dropped. Harris Tavita, that's pretty brutal. And Blake Green's not going anywhere, so I don't know where he fits in, but someone's going to get pretty harshly done by here.
I tell you what, mate. If you're a fan of Isaac Luke and you want to see him stay at the Warriors, that Nikorima signing does not look great.
No.
For Isaac Luke. Also, just want to point out that you'll note now that Papali'i is actually starting in the second row, with Adam Blair finally dropped after another performance of one run, albeit for a try. Let's not wax on lyrical about just how disgraceful that is, but he has finally been dropped. So, what do you make of the minutes for these forwards?
Yeah, so it's a bit hard to judge just because you've got Jared Beale and Nathaniel Roach both on the bench. And you've got obviously Blair and Afoa. So Blair and Afoa, look, you've got Parsi and Armau who are the front rowers. So Afoa is definitely going to rotate through one of those spots.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that Blair comes on, plays a lock, and then Burr pushes up to front row for a while to give one of the other front rowers a spell. And then whenever they've had a rest, they'll come on and give Burr a rest from there. So
strange bench, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unusual. You don't see it with a bench hooker and a utility back on the bench, but yeah, that's how I see the rotation going.
Mate, the only way I read that is, does that suddenly make, like, to me, I've been trying to, because he's just the PPM is there. Does Leeson Amau actually get good minutes here? Like slightly more than he normally does? We know he can play them.
Yeah, well, he bloody got 70 points last week, didn't he?
I think Leeson Amau might be fine here. Whilst Beale is going to be selected with Roach, one of them has to get bigger minutes, and it's unlikely to be Ignatius Parsi. So I feel Leeson probably is a beneficiary there. And Papali'i as well should finally take that spot off Blair permanently, you would think.
Yeah, I like Papali'i's chances of 80 minutes in that rotation, but
so do I.
You never know. We've said that a few times this year, and it hasn't happened. So I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, this could be finally the time, and because Blair's not going to push it in, not going to show much from the bench. So yeah. Also, just finally, Solomone Kata has been dropped.
Go on,
Patrick Herbert. Any interest?
Yeah, a little bit as a stash, not a play.
He's a stash. He's a stash. Could be a decent matchup as well. Don't mind it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much it on the Warriors. Your Newcastle Knights, Jesse Ramian got named, which is good news for owners of him.
Yeah.
In terms of waivers for them, any of these guys interest you? Heimel Hunt scored all right last week.
Good matchup, mate. Even just your sneaky play of SKD was involved last week. Bloody on the ball a lot, the fella. Probably you'd hope that Knights can keep a bit of a roll on, albeit obviously over in NZ. I don't mind firing up, say, like an SKD and a Heimel Hunt in this matchup. I think it's probably not the worst. Do you buy into Mitch Pearce carrying on the form he showed on the weekend? Because, wow, did he play well.
Yeah, he did play well. I kind of do, I kind of don't. Like he's
confidence player.
I do if the matchups match up, if that makes sense. Like he's got the Warriors, so he's going to keep riding that confidence. Until they get a tough matchup, then I'm not going to back him again in a hard matchup. But
he kind of does that a bit, doesn't he? I think you've nailed that. But I tell you what, mate, if I had him in my side right now, or if you're sitting on waivers, you are more than welcome to fire him up this week in your halfback slot.
Yeah, this is another good spot for him. That's for sure. With that confidence, look, I've got a sneaky waiver for Benny Levi with this bench. I've got Mataudia, Esse, Gavitt, and Josh King, who are 3 front rowers and a second rower.
Ooh, you think it's finally time for him to get that 80-minute chance that he's been longing for?
Yeah, I don't think he should really get it because I don't overly rate Denny Levi, to be quite honest. But
I will second that.
But he got 71 minutes last week, coming off 65 minutes the week before.
Had his best game in a Knights jersey.
He did, just because Reid Marnie just completely just let him run through after being called offside. But let's not take that away from him.
Look, he still had to capitalise. You got to play the cards you dealt. Good on you, Danny. Don't listen to Simon.
So that's why I think he might be a sneaky way, because there is a chance he might get 80 minutes going forward. I don't know how long for, but for this week, he might get it.
If I was to answer, I guess I sound a bit bar humbug till his next bad performance.
Yeah, well, probably this week.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's really set for him. He's probably one you could fire up this round as well against the Warriors. But there probably won't be the defensive stats there. You'd imagine it'll be more of an attacking display, because I think the Warriors, they obviously lifted under that, with the motivation of Anzac Day last week. I feel this might be a bit of a down week for them.
Yeah, you're probably right. Okay, so last match of the round is Parramatta at home at Bankwest against the Dragons. For the Eels, Manu Ma'u returned last week in quite triumphant style, scoring 85, coming off the bench, and he's been named on the bench again. I'm just keen to see what happened with Nikore's minutes last week with Mao back. What happened there? Do you know? I'm just going to look it up.
Have a look, mate. I don't have that in front of me right now. Very good question, though. And Manu Ma'u, is there a player that is easier to like? Like, he's just... I love watching him play. And when he was when he was shaken off the trainer, when he clearly had to go off for HIA, it looked like he was going to knock his lights out.
Oh,
I was like, mate,
yeah.
Oh, it was brilliant. That's almost like moment of the season for me.
Yeah, there's no way that trainer could have got paid enough money to have to tell him to come off the field for that.
He legit looked like he was going to flatten him. I love that mentality. Good on him. He must be a coach's dream. Big fan.
No, so look, Nikori got 80 minutes last week,
mm-hmm.
which is kind of interesting.
What did Lane get his 80?
Yeah, Lane got 80 as well. So he must have rotated through lock with Mo Roa.
Okay.
And the other guys are all front rowers.
Yeah, Mana, Kafusi, and Terapa. Oh, Penny, yeah, he did have a good game. Old Penny. Yeah, mate, interesting. Junior Paulo also didn't have very many minutes. He had a bit of a reduction. So Manu Ma'u, I still think if there's a buy low, because he keeps getting named on the bench, he's gonna slot into an 80-minute role, surely.
Yeah, it's a matter of time. I would not feel comfortable as a Nikore owner. Like, even though he got 80 minutes last week, it's got to be worrying because he's a second rower.
He's one of those guys you sell, like you try and sell, but he's not going to be a big enough name really to get much return. So just maybe try sell hard on the fact he keeps, in leagues that might not have guys that are fully onto it. Maybe try and sell on the average, and then he got named twice in a row over Ma'u.
Yeah. The hard part is like, how do you trust him as a starter with Ma'u hanging around?
You can't. You absolutely can't. And you, as I said, you probably won't get much of a sale, but I guess you just have to go with him again this week, but at some point that could look bad. I wouldn't be surprised. Eels come out slowly against the Dragons and Ma'u's on inside the first 30 minutes. Wouldn't surprise me.
No, that's true. Look, in terms of waivers then, I think Mike Acevo, he's starting to look good.
Oof, boy. Production line at Parramatta for the wingers, mate. Like, that, he's a good one. A nice pass from Blake Ferguson as well, it must be said, for the try he scored. But, yeah, a good player, man. He looks like he's coming into his own in the NRL. And, yeah, I think, mate, especially the fact he plays the first big buy round, like he's certainly an every week starter.
Yeah, no, he's a good one. I think he's really coming of age in the NRL, so he's a waiver claim going forward.
Daniel Alvaro may have been dropped in some leagues. He's been just really well below what you expected on draft day. I'm one of the owners as well. I'm I guess the effect of Junior Paulo really hurt his minutes, and the fact they're running 3 front rowers on the bench. Is he a low end claim if he was dropped? Is he a free agent stash, or is he just someone should be left alone?
Good question. As a non-owner, trying to think what if he was dropped. If he was dropped, I wouldn't bat an eyelid. I don't think.
No, it's certainly at that level. It's one of those he'd have to, string together a few 45 to 50-minute games because he'd only be getting around about that 40 mark. He's a guy that needs 50 minutes really to be relevant, and it just with that bench and the fact you got Junior Paulo there, it really doesn't look like it's going to happen. I guess the only thing is I think he's certainly played his way out of an Origin jersey after looking like he may have been a chance after his form last year.
Yeah, he's definitely no chance this year. So, I think he's worth a hold for a couple of weeks with the buys coming around, but then because there is a sneaky bit of he has been really unlucky the last couple of weeks with the injuries and HIA. So there is a chance that he may have been really slept on. Like it could me saying I wouldn't bat an eyelid. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he was to come out and base 55 again next week. It's just that he's had such a poor run. I think he's probably someone that.
He's also he's a Junior Paulo injury away from being that 55-minute guy. Got to keep that in mind as well. But just right now, doesn't look like it.
Yeah, that's true. All right, last team to look at here is the Dragons. Now, Ewan Aitken has been pummeled back to the bench, which is old Zachy Lomax in the centres. How good?
Ewan Aitken on the bench. Geez, I'll tell you what. If those rumblings are obviously somewhat true, Ewan Aitken will end up somewhere else very soon.
You imagine so. He's obviously being dropped because of that. He didn't drop. He didn't dive on the ball, and then Tupou just got the ball after. I think they'd had a bit of prolonged attack as well, like a couple of sets on the line, and then he just basically just let Tupou beat him to the ball.
Yep.
Do you reckon that was it?
Probably. I sort of compare that moment with Mitch Pearce. You're retrieving the ball to earn that penalty on the weekend. Just that desire is different at times, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think. Look, he must be doing something bad if Ravalawa can be picked at a side ahead of you. That's all I'll say. We know the jury's not even out on Ravalawa. That is just a mistake waiting to happen.
Oh well, if he's going to be against Ferguson this week.
Oh dear.
Actually, no, he won't be because Pereira plays left.
Yeah. Wow.
Jesus.
Mika Sivo. Oh, Mika Sivo should run all over him. So, yeah.
That'll be interesting. But look, how high do you go on Lomax? Because obviously this is huge for a goal-kicking centre wing.
I'm happy with any level. I think the talent's there. I think the Dragons should continue to be, a decent Supercoach side. Job security is, I guess, it's up in the air, but they'll have to make space for him because they can't. Tim Laffey won't kick in the NRL again.
No, he will not.
That is officially put a line through Tim. I would have thought Laffey was done in the last couple of seasons, but he's never kicked that badly. So Zach Lomax, he will be the goal kicker for this side. So that being said, I think there's a chance at could Ewan Aitken ever play wing? He's not fast.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Like, I don't see why he couldn't just be like a Ferguson Dugan style.
Yeah.
Winger.
Yeah, could be. The Dragons do like those sort of athletic, Nightingale clones, don't they? Like trying the high flying finish in the corner, arm stretch types. They seem to that seems to be preferred. So. Yeah, I like it. I mean, Ewan Aitken as a winger actually could be interesting if he got a chance with a higher work rate. Yeah,
look, if Ravalawa comes out and has an absolute shocker, then that's pretty much it. Like Aiken's got to get a run, but yeah, I mean, it's a massive blow to see Lomax get the spot. I mean, he nearly set up a couple of tries to Lomax scored one try, but he nearly scored another one where Aitken threw it forward. If he didn't stuff that up, he probably would still have a spot on the side, I reckon.
Probably.
Yeah, it's harsh, but anyway, I think you got to go.
So, interesting one. Do you hang on to Aitken?
Oh, yeah, I think you probably do just for a couple of weeks.
Yep. I think that's fair. I have no problem with that. So you hang on to Aitken, and I do have. I'm happy with any level waiver on Lomax, considering there's not huge amounts of options out there, and he is a goal kicker. I like it.
Yeah, like you'd drop Aiken for Lomax in a heartbeat, wouldn't you?
You would do that, but assuming a lot Lomax will be available in a lot of leagues if he wasn't picked up late last week. Yeah, he's a good one. I like it.
Yeah. Okay, that sums up our waivers. I've just got a list of the names here. Try and give you a ranking. So I think in terms of top 5 or 6, everybody 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, Lomax is number 1.
Lomax 1.
Yep.
Papali'i 2.
Good, like it.
Or would you go the other way around?
No, I think because a goal kicking CTW, mate, you've always got for the sheer upside of how well that could go for you. You've always got to preference that.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so 1 and 2, would you go Egan Kyle Flanagan, or Danny Levi?
I think you've missed one there. I think Jared Wallace may well have been dropped in a few leagues. I like Jared Wallace.
Okay, so Jared Wallace at 3.
Yep.
Right, so my question still stands in for number 4.
So you got Egan, Levi, and who was the other one?
Kyle Flanagan.
I think I would go. You've almost got to go Levi next, even though I don't like it. It's just the whole 80-minute potential with that bench and the fact he had a good week last week. So I think you have to almost go Levi. It's very, very close between him and Egan. I guess Egan just less likely to get 80 minutes. Well, he won't get 80 minutes, I should say. And then Flanagan could be an option for you, along with Dearden, or Dearden, if I pronounced that correctly. Yeah, Dearden. Either of those two if you're in need of cover for DCE.
If Pierce was available, how high would you go with Pierce?
Pierce is a waiver claim over those guys just because there's obviously that long-term, and he's had some Supercoach pedigree. We know Pierce has gone on runs before, and he has averaged 55 for over a course of a season. Yeah. Considering the matchup this week as well, I think you'd have to put Pierce out of those two.
Yeah, I pretty much agree, except I'd go Egan over Levi.
Yeah,
everything in my being just says there's no way I'd go Levi over Egan. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I didn't say it with a whole lot of conviction. I can certainly see your argument. I'm not gonna like strongly defend Danny Levi.
Yeah. All right, that's good, mate. All good stuff. Okay, let's wrap the show up with some fan questions.
All right, let's get it.
The first one's from Penna.
Yep.
Penna.
Hi, Hannah.
Penna. Did you say Hannah or Penna?
Hannah. Was it Hannah or Panna?
Penna.
Panna. G'day, Panna.
Yeah. Have Lolo on the bench. Would you play him this week? Well, his current 2 OFs are Gerbo, Cam Murray, and Fitzgibbon.
Oh, must be nice. You probably have the luxury of not having to rush him back if that's what you're running, and well played at draft day / trades.
So if Lolo's playing,
of course,
you're going to play him over Fitzgibbon, right?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. I do think Fitzgibbon will probably hit some upside though. It's a good matchup.
Yeah. So what does that mean? Is your answer still Lolo?
The answer is if you find out that he's fit, try trade. Trade someone. Improve another part of your team that's not as strong as your ridiculously good 2RF.
That's a damn good 2RF. Okay. Next one is from Cameron. 10-team league. He said in his league, halves and fullbacks have good trade value. Who should he trade out of his team between Lachlan Lewis and Jack Whiten? He needs one of them to play 5/8 for the remainder of the year. He has Turbo. He's currently using Will Hopewadi at fullback, so he doesn't really need Whiten's versatility to be a fullback. He's already got Cleary at halfback, so he needs I guess it's Lewis or Whiten to be his 5/8 the rest of the way.
Jeez, I can never really be the Lewis owner there, and I don't really like Whiten either. So that doesn't sound like great options. But if I had to gun to my head, I would run with Whiten in a good Canberra side and just hope you're gonna have to ride out some lows, but he will score some tries like he did on the weekend gone. I don't love it.
I think I'd go Lewis, but it's really not a great situation.
I just don't love it.
All right, and the last question, only 3 this week, is from Adam. He says, I can't believe I'm asking this, but
Oh dear.
is Meany worth a punt against the weakened Manly backline?
We talked about this earlier. I can see the appeal. There's no context there about how big the league is or what your other options are. So I suppose there's a chance he'll hit some upside there. I would like to think you're looking elsewhere though.
Yeah, let's just assume that he's got like a Kotrick at his fullback spot, for example, and he could move him down, or I don't know. Geez, that's hard. I guess the answer is yes. He's probably worth a sneaky punt, but you have to be desperate.
Be prepared that the floor with Meany is very low due to his low work rate.
Yeah, that's true. All right, mate. That wraps us up for another week. Thanks for getting into it, and we'll be back again next time.
Oh, pleasure, mate. It's been good, and a positive attitude after this potty, mate. I already know what I'm doing come waiver time. So good luck to all the listeners out there, and we'll tune in next week. Cheers.
Beautiful. Cheers, mate. See ya.